In your current project, can you please tell me your roles and responsibilities?
So my roles are like designing, developing, and writing the test cases for the code, and then supporting the code till the production and fixing the defects reported by the QA and the production users, and also
Okay.
reviewing the PR from the teammates, and also helping the team members in their absence or helping them in some of the, you can say, tasks. So I think, yeah, that's my responsibilities.
Okay. Oh. So, I mean, you do the deployment as well, or there is a separate team or something?
So deployment is done by the different team. So we used to promote our code, like then the different team, like we need to communicate them, like the build is ready for the production, and then they deploy it.
Okay, okay. So, for deployment, you guys are using any cloud
Jenkins.
like AWS Azure, or on the private network you are doing the
So we are using
deployments?
the pipeline of Jenkins, and it is deploying to the private cloud of the Mastercard.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, let's start. So, let's start with you. So, what is difference between abstraction and encapsulation?
So encapsulation is like, you can say, binding the data together. Like we have the variables, we have the methods, and all we are putting all them into the one class. And the other is abstraction. Abstraction is more about like hiding the implementation. So suppose that we achieve using the interfaces. Suppose we have some methods, and we are providing the implementation at the runtime, and we are not exactly you can say we are not exactly, you can say, what we say, like showing the implementation to the client. So that is abstraction.
What is polymorphism?
So polymorphism is like, you can say, having multiple forms. So suppose there is an add function which is having which expects two parameter, and we can have a same add function with three parameters, which adds three, you can say, numbers. So that is polymorphism, having multiple forms for a different method, I would say. That is compile time polymorphism, we can say that.
Mhm. Okay. So what is difference between string and string builder?
So string is the immutable class, and string builder is not immutable.
So what is immutable class?
So immutable, you can say, once we have created the object, right, so we can't modify it.
Okay. So suppose I have a custom class, just name it employee.
Mm-hmm.
So it suppose it contains three instance level variables. One is string, one is integer, and one is list.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what all changes are required to make this class immutable?
So first thing is, like, for the class we have to make it final so that no one can extend it, and we should not have
Mhm.
any setter methods in the class. So we will only have the getter methods for the variables, and all the variables should be final so that we can't reinitialize them, and we will only initialize the variable in the constructor. And so by this way, like, we can make the class immutable. But we also have a list in the class. So for that, in for the list, right, so when we do a get, so when we do a get on particular list, then it returns the reference to the list. So what we need to do is, like, while doing the get operation on the list, we need to return the copy of that list instead of returning the original list. So this way we can make it immutable.
Mhm. Okay. What is serialization?
So serialization is like, you want to write some, you can say, object into stream, or you can say you want to transfer one object from the network. So you need to write the object into stream or a file, then you can transfer that object to the other location. So the serialization is process of, you can say, writing object into stream.
Mhm. Okay. What is difference between linked list and array list?
So linked list and array list, yeah. So array list is, again, you can say, resizable array, and linked list uses internally linked list. And the difference here is, like, when we do some insertion in array list, right, so whenever, you can say, doing some insertion or deletion, there are multiple, internally it do some shifting operations to, you can say,
Mhm.
accommodate that array. But in linked list, we are simply we have the next, you can say, next point, right. So when we add an element, it will simply create a node and point that next to that particular new node. So this is the main difference between linked list. So the linked list is much better for, you can say, insertion deletion, and array list is much better for search operations.
How internally Hashot works?
Sorry.
Internally, I mean, what are the internal mechanism for the hash set?
Okay, so
How internally
hashset
it works?
internally uses hash map only. So what
Mm-hmm.
actually it happens is, like, suppose you have string class, right? So we are using it as a key. Now what happens is, so
Mm-hmm.
hash map has a, you can say, array of buckets, and suppose I am putting key as a. Now what it will do is, it will compute the hash of that particular a. Based on that hash, it will compute some key in that particular bucket. So in that, you can say, it will compute the hash. Based on the hash, it will compute the index. So index, it will use bitwise operation to compute the index to locate the index in the bucket, and after getting the index, it will go to that location. It will check if there is already any node present or any key present at the particular location or not. If it is not present, it will insert a new node. It will create a new node and put the key value pair there.
Okay. What is difference between checked and unchecked exceptions?
So checked exceptions are, you can say, checked by the compiler, I would say, like when we write some code, right? So suppose our one of the we are calling some method m1 and it is throwing some exception. Suppose it is throwing exception only, and when we are calling that particular method m1 from our code, so our compiler will force us to either catch that exception or to throw that exception again. So that is checked exception. And when we are using unchecked exceptions, so our compiler will not force us, but it will be raised at the runtime.
Okay. So why we use the finally block?
So finally block is, you can say, we have try catch finally, right? So the main reason is like when we suppose there is scenario like where there can be positive scenario as well, negative scenario. Where positive means like there is no exception in the code, negative means there can be exception in the code, and we want to do some, you can say, resource memory free up or resource closure, something like that. So we can go for finally block and we can put that in the finally block. So finally block is the block which is always executed whether there is an exception or not.
Okay. So have you worked on the multi-threading scenarios?
Yeah, worked on.
Okay. So what is actually synchronization and how do we achieve it in Java?
So synchronization is like, suppose we have a particular line of code and we want that only one thread is allowed to enter into that particular code instead of having multiple threads executing it parallelly. So what we can do is we can either use the synchronized block there and put that code in that particular block, or we can go for synchronized method which will synchronize the complete method and one thread will be allowed to execute that method.
Okay. And what is difference between class level locking and object level locking?
So when we say object level logging, like suppose in that particular method I am using synchronized and block, and in the block I am passing this, so it will log the entire object, and any of the thread which are trying to, you can say, uh, access the other methods, they will be blocked or in the waiting state. And if I am using class level lock, so class level lock we use, you can say, mostly on the static methods. So class level lock is like class name dot class. So in the synchronized block we pass class name dot class, so that is class level lock.
Okay. So on the database side, on which database you have worked on, relational or NoSQL?
Relational.
Okay. 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 Then what is normalization?
So normalization is like, you can say, decreasing the complexity amongst the tables. Suppose we have multiple forms like 1NF, 2NF, 3NF. So 1NF is like in the columns, suppose we have multiple, you can say, fields, and we have duplicate, you can say, records. We can, so then what we can do is we can break the two tables. We can break one table to two tables which will have different, like which will have some mapping based on that some records. Like I don't remember right now because I've done in BTech only. And I think in 3NF we have some transitive dependency A to B, B to C, and then A to C, something like that we have to break.
Okay. What are the ACID properties?
So ACID is like atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. So atomicity is like when we do some write operations, then the data should be atomic. Like there should be like if we are doing some operation on A and it should not affect B, and A should be properly, you can say, committed. The data should be properly committed. And acid C is consistency. The data should be consistent, like it should not change. And I is isolation. I don't remember. And durability is like when there is some, you can say, uh, like some failure or system failure, something like that, then the data should be rolled back to the previous state.
Okay. What are joins?
So joins are used for, you can say, combining the results from one or more tables.
Okay. Then what is difference between left join and right join?
So left join and right join. So left, suppose we have a table A and suppose we have a table B, and we want the data between both the tables A and B, and also all the data that is in left, the A table. So in that case, we will go for left outer join or left join. And if we want the data from the right table, joining the, you can say, the left table, then we should go for right join.
Okay. So are you using any ORM tool or I mean ORM framework in your project like Hibernate or something?
Yeah. So I've used Spring Data JP and Hibernate.
Okay. So in Hibernate, what are the different fetch types?
So fetch type is eager and lazy. So in eager, like you can say, every time when we do some select query, it fetches all the records. Like, and in lazy, only on the demand it will fetch the records.
Okay. And in JPA, suppose in my just in an entity, suppose there are multiple fields, just suppose 7 fields, and at runtime I will be known that suppose I mean I want a dynamic query on 3 or 4 fields on the runtime. So what approach should I follow
So
in the
in
JPA?
so in that case, like we have add that query annotations, right? So add that query annotation we can, okay. So in JPA, so in Spring Boot, like we have add that query annotation, and we can pass that query in that particular annotation. So it will use that particular query for retrieving the data.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you are suggesting native query. We should
Yeah.
create the native string query at the runtime and then we should use that.
Yep.
Okay. And have you written the custom repositories there? Like one is by default we you can say implement the CRUD repository or JP repository and then using find by
Yeah. I've used that.
something
Yeah,
like
we can
that
also
we
write
do.
the method like find by, then we can specify the fields by which we want to find that.
Okay. And have you written the custom repositories?
So when we say custom
So
repository,
custom by, I mean, then using the predicates and everything, then we create the criteria and then we fetch the results. So have you done that in your
no,
project?
no.
Okay, no issues. Yeah, just asking. Okay, and so you are using the Spring Boot. So to secure your REST endpoints, what approach you guys are following?
So we have a JWT tokens, like so we have a SAML token basically. So SAML, and we can go for SAML or JWT. So in the header we used to get that token, and then we check if the token is valid or not. If the token is valid, then the request is also valid. Like after checking the token is valid, then we used to check if the user has the required roles or not. If roles are there, then the request is valid.
Okay. And how do you guys manage the transaction over the microservices? So, okay, give me one example so that it will be clear. So, suppose, I mean, we know that in transaction, if something goes fail, then we can revert it, right? So, suppose I have an endpoint, so there I need 5, 7 tasks, but suppose one microservice is performing 2 tasks and another microservice is performing rest of the task. But if something goes wrong in the next service, then the first service should also roll back the all the changes whatever has been made in the database. So how we can achieve that?
I haven't done that, but I believe like we have a Saga pattern for that, and so in that we use some messaging broker like Kafka or something like that, and we used to publish an event. Suppose one service A is doing some transaction, and the transaction completes. So the service A will publish an event into the Kafka, and then the service B again do some event. It publish the events to the Kafka, and if something goes wrong, then again the events, the, you can say, something goes wrong at service B end, and the rollback happens. So service B will publish an event into Kafka, the rollback event, and the service A will observe that Kafka and will, based on that event of that rollback, it will also roll back the data, the, you can say, the transaction in service A.
Okay, just a minute. So I'm just sharing one share editor link. Just let me know if you can access it.
Sure.
Just a minute. In this Skype chat, I'm sharing.
Sure. Yep, it opened.
Okay, so First scenario is, suppose there are two tables. One is employee. In employee, suppose there are four columns: ID, name, salary, and department ID. And then the second one is, suppose department. There are two columns are there: ID and name. So in employee, ID, name, and salary are three columns. So ID of employee, name, and salary, and department ID is FK of the department table. And in department again, yeah, ID is primary key and name is just another field. So suppose we want the result that so in the output, the output should be ID of department, name of department, and the minimum salary anyone is getting in that particular department. So what should be the query for that?
Sorry, what is the output?
So in output, we need to print the ID of department, name of department, and the minimum salary anyone is getting into the particular department. So you can say minimum salary per department anyone is getting.
Okay, okay. So we need to select the ID of department, name of the department, and salary. And we want to get the minimum salary, right?
Yes.
Okay. And yep, so this way we can do that.
But how it will give the minimum salary per department?
So we are using the aggregate function, right, for minimum, and we are grouping. Okay, e dots. Group by department name. We need to do that.
And what kind of join we should apply here? I think
So either we can simply do where, or we can go for e department. Simple join, like inner join, you can say. We can do that.
okay. And suppose we want to print the name of employee as well who is getting the minimum salary in that particular department. Then what all changes are required here?
Name.
So okay, just assume that if suppose two person are getting the same minimum salary, then just print any of them.
So simply it will print. If I add e.name here, then it will print the name. E.name, yeah.
So for sure, I mean, so the row which is printing the minimum salary, so it will print the name of particular that row here. Suppose in department 5 rows are there, and the min function is giving suppose the third row, because the third row is having the minimum salary for that particular department. So will it print the same employee name from that particular third row? Is it?
No, I believe.
Okay, yeah, no issues. Let's move to the Java side. So suppose you are given a large string, okay, and you need to print the frequency of each and every word present in that string,
Okay.
but in the descending order.
Okay.
So yeah, can you please write the program for that?
Yep. So We have to print the frequency in descending order. Okay. So what I can do is I will go for hash map here.
Mhm.
Okay. Now we have the hash map with the counts of each,
Mhm.
yeah, each character in the string.
Right.
So we have a string array or a simple string.
Simple string.
Okay. And what I will do is I will create a list for sorting. So now I have the list, I will sort it. And we have to sort based upon the value. So this way. Now I need to print also, right? So for this way we can do it.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, last question from my side. One program. So suppose you need to write one function. In that one function, you will be given two parameters. One is parent string and one is a substring.
Mm-hmm.
And the output of that function should be the frequency of substring in given parent string.
Okay.
So can you please write that function?
So
So question is clear, right?
yeah. So we have a parent string and we have a substring. So we need to print the frequency, or you can say the count of substring into the parent
In
string,
the
right?
parent string.
Okay.
Right, correct.
So okay. So what I can do is, if in the parent string, I will create a string builder here. Uh,
May I know the reason why we need the string builder here?
So I'm thinking is like if I have a string builder, right, and if what I will do is I will do the index of passing the substring. So it will give me the, you can say, first the occurrence index, right? So after getting that index, what I will do is I will create a new sublist, new substring, starting from the next of that particular index, and then I will again do that same operation.
Okay, but that you can do in the string as well.
Yeah, we can do, but for string, I need to again create a new string because it's immutable. That's why I was doing it from that. So
Okay.
parent dot index of, I pass this substring, so I will get some index.
Your voice is breaking if you are speaking something.
Yeah, if my index is not equal to -1, like if I get some index, valid index, what I will do is parent, let's create a counter variable also. Is equal to 0, then count plus and parent is equal to parent dot substring index +1 parent dot length and now I have again, so I will do the same operation again. While index not equal to -1, count, and parent is this, and then computing the next index and then returning the count. So this way. Hello.
Yes.
So this way we can do it.
So can you please explain the logic here?
So what I'm doing is I'm using index of to find the index of the particular substring in the parent, and once we get the index, right, so it gives some integer value. If there is no index, it gives -1. So I'm doing a while loop, and first I get some index, suppose it, I increment the count, and after that I generate a new substring starting from that, like a new substring that will not include that particular index next time. So that is index +1 here until the length. Now that, but first index got excluded from the new list, the new string, and we got new parent, and again I'm finding the index of that particular substring in the new parent, and then I again get some index. If it is not -1, I increment the count and again check.
Okay. So can you please let me know what might be the corner case here where you will get the error?
uh, so the corner case can be string index out of bound we can get here, because I'm doing index +1.
Okay. So how we can solve that?
One thing I can add here is, like, if I can add a if block, if my index +1 is less than parent dot length, and or if we have to change the logic, then we are looking for the same substring in the parent. Or yeah, the other approach can be like we are iterating over the parent, the, you can say, the parent string, or what we can do is I can uh, create a character array from here, and same goes for the substring. Oops. Sub dot to char array. Yep. Hello.
Hello.
Yep. The call got dropped.
Can you please can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, now even you are audible.
Yeah. So I was saying like we can create two character array from the parent and sub array, and what I will do is I will iterate over the first array. If my character at p of I is equal to character at s of I, not s of I, s of k. First character matches, second doesn't matches. If my p of I is, then I will do k plus plus else k equals to 0, and at any time if k is equal to s dot length minus 1 count plus plus, and also the k will be 0. So what I did here is like I created two character arrays from both the strings, and I'm iterating over the parent string, and I am checking if the first character, or you can say the I character in the parent string, is equal to the k character in the substring. So whenever it is equal, I am incrementing the k to plus plus. Next time if it again goes into this, it increment. If suppose in the next second case it doesn't matches, then what it will do is it will reset the k. So at some time when the k length gets equal to the length of the this substring, right, the minus 1, so I increment the count and I again reset the k to 0 to find the next occurrences.
Okay. Okay. So just consider one scenario. Suppose where you have written one REST endpoint, and in that endpoint, suppose you are dealing with database as well. But after doing, I mean, once you complete the test, then you find that suppose the expected response time should be within 5-7 seconds. But suppose your endpoint is taking more than 15 seconds or nearby 15 seconds. So you want to optimize that. So what approach you will follow? I mean, what all are the points which you will check to optimize the endpoint?
So that endpoint is doing exactly what? Can you please repeat?
Just assume anything. Suppose from the database you are fetching the results, and then you are iterating it, and then doing some calculation, and then returning it. So just common checkpoints, whatever you can think of in a particular, I mean, in Java side or the database side, what all you can check.
So one thing is like we can cache the data. You can so that we can get more faster records. Like retrieval is faster, we can go for cache. And other thing is, if you are making suppose any calls to the other services or something like that, then we can see if we can implement any executor service to make the calls parallelly instead of, you can say, synchronously. And
okay. And suppose you want to, I mean, just you want to ensure that your query is properly optimized, then what all you will check?
no idea on that, like query optimization.
Okay. Wishes. So, yeah, Nishan, that's all.